and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
Hey, good morning to you. It is Thursday. I'm John Reid, and you're watching the Reid Revolution here. And if you're listening by podcast, whenever you're downloading this, we're glad to have you as a part of the podcast audience today. I really hate the name podcast. I gotta go with something a little bigger. Podcast sounds so tiny, and I'm not into that. But boy, the people in Washington, the Democrats in Washington at least, are really down on America. I mean, you would think that America had committed 47 years of atrocities around the world and had destroyed the lives of innocent people all over the world, instead of stopping the Ayatollah and the radical Islamists who constantly have done that. And I'm watching this morning some of the speeches of United States senators, Democrat senators, who really, I mean, it's got to all be politics. It has to all be politics, because these same people were not berserk when Barack Obama was behaving as he was behaving. They were not berserk whenever Joe Biden had to take dramatic action, but they're berserk over Donald Trump. And the collective ignorance of the average protester has been pretty remarkable as well. As you watch individuals who are going around and doing these man-on-the-street interviews that regular reporters don't do anymore, it seems, where they walk with the protesters and they ask them questions about the war and whether they can find Iran on a map, whether they know where the Middle East is on a map. I mean, let's make it simple. Can you find the Middle East? No, they can't find the Middle East. Whether they understand anything about radical Islam and the hostility towards women and gays and all the minority groups that we claim to be so concerned about and want to protect here, who are very, very blatantly oppressed overseas. There's just no connection. No connection. The only connection seems to be a hate for Donald Trump. And fundamentally, I think it's not just about Donald Trump in this case. It is the 25 years of self-loathing education that a lot of Americans have been subjected to believe that we're the problem in the world. It's not the terrorists. It's not the people who throw Jewish men in wheelchairs off of cruise ships into the ocean. It's not the radicals who slice the necks of Christians and leave them to bleed out on a beach. That's not the problem, apparently. Apparently, we are the problem, and our existence is a threat to them. So their solution, I suppose, when it suits them, is for us to just kind of sit over here and wait to be bombed. And, good luck to you if you travel overseas. There'll be nobody to back you up. I mean, for someone like me, who was a business person in the Middle East, who lived constantly under the threat of kidnapping and, being held hostage, either for ransom or for slaughter, one of the two. I mean, that's kind of heavy, if you ask me. And I was there by myself, so it's not like I had a backup team or I had security or, I was on a military post. I was just in hotels and rental properties like a regular person. I guess I'm supposed to just go it on my own, and my country really doesn't care. I think that's the mindset of a lot of the fools who have taken over the Democrat Party. I mean, this is not a Democrat Party that is pro-military. It's not a Democrat Party. I mean, it's pro-military when it comes to social experiments, but not when it comes to actually doing what the military is supposed to do, which is to protect us by defeating the evil people who want to kill Americans. And quite frankly, kill them first before they kill us. I hate it. I'm sorry. I know that's upsetting to a lot of people. I know that they see the military as a grand social experiment, but it's not. It's about as fundamental as any organization that's out there. We kill you before you kill us. And actually, I think we've got a pretty good track record in 250 years of not being overly aggressive. If we were overly aggressive, we would have bombed Iran and turned it into glass a long time ago. They certainly deserved that, the leadership. But we have been very kind of passive because we're torn. I think, A, we want to be good people, so we're confused about what being good means. And we have our own built in resistance in the United States that is not convinced that we deserve to survive. I mean, you ask the average, this would be an interesting man on the street question. Ask the people who were protesting, does the United States deserve to survive in the new world order? Is that a neutral question? Is that kind of, I mean, that's kind of a neutral question. Does the United States deserve to survive? Should we survive in the new world order? What do you think? What do you think the answer would be? I bet the answer would be no, or probably not. I mean, we've just got a built-in group of people who are not believers in Western civilization. Now, don't get me wrong, they certainly benefit from it. They go to church or don't go to church without worrying about being attacked based on what their personal feelings are, without any kind of social retribution about that. So that's a good thing. You have sex with whoever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. I mean, for the most part, nobody says anything about that. You know, for the most part, nobody says anything about that. So you benefit from that kind of liberal attitude. You can make as much money as you want. You can start a business anywhere you want. You can travel anywhere within the 50 states, plus the territories. Nobody hassles you about that. You can go anywhere you want. You got a bag of money, you get a loan from a bank. Oh, and they get a loan from a bank. There are actually banks that will give out loans to regular people. You don't have to be part of the ruling class or a member of a special family to get a loan. Um, what else could we say? You could be a woman. You can go shopping on your own as a woman without your brother or your husband or your dad or some male in the family taking you shopping. I would think that that would count for a lot. For my people, the gays, you can go to a gay bar and not have to, in general, at least for the moment, until radical Islam takes over here. You don't have to worry about being beaten and hit in the head with a brick at 2 o'clock in the morning outside of the gay bar. So, I mean, I would think that would be a net positive. I mean, this is Western civilization, and you're living it, but you hate it. Uh, Explain that to me. Explain that to me. I'm not saying everything is perfect. I'm not saying that everything is wonderful for you. I'm not saying every person in the 335 million Americans that exist today is a super sweet, nice person. But I can promise you, having traveled around the world, you're a lot better off here than you are in most places. And, in Western Europe, where they've gone through this conflict and they've sided with radical Islam, things are changing. Things are changing. A lot of women cannot go out at night without being harassed or raped. Children are being abused, not by everybody, but there's a problem. You get judged on what the percentage of lawbreakers do, and this is a big problem. And for some reason, our leaders some of our leaders, not all of our leaders. I'm trying to sound the alarm, but a lot of our leaders just don't want to take the example of what's happening in Western Europe and raise some concerns. I'm not saying abuse people. I'm not saying treat anybody badly, but I'm saying raise some concerns. Maybe uh, the people who are here, you got to deal with the people who are here. If they're here legally, you got to deal with that. But let's go to the spigot and maybe we turn it down a little bit. Maybe we go to the spigot and we say, we're not going to have as many people coming with the same volume and frequency as we've had in the past because we're seeing some assimilation problems in other parts of the world, and that's causing some cultural problems. And there are a lot of innocent people who are getting hurt. And maybe we should respond to that. Oh, no, 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 no. The suggestion that you need to pay attention and respond to real world problems is upsetting. These are the same people who are telling us that what we're doing in Iran is wrong. I don't know. At some point, you've got to look and say, Who am I going to take advice from? The Democrats, who in my lifetime, in 55 years, have always, eventually found their way to defend the bad guys. I'm trying to think. Even after 9/11, what was it, maybe a month or two? Maybe through that happened September 11th, and then by the time we got through the holidays into the new year, it would be interesting to track that. Exactly when did they switch back to their normal MO of not being on the side of America and being hostile to the United States and blaming us for our own murder? Because that's what I've constantly seen. Every conflict in my life. I mean, I was born towards the end of the Vietnam era. Um, they hated the Vietnam vets. I mean, they spit on the Vietnam vets. They treated them like garbage because they were siding with the communists. We weren't supposed to be over there trying to save people. I mean, that kind of internal conflict was probably the reason that we didn't go full bore and win a war. And this is a consistent problem my entire life. You have conservatives who identify the evildoers, who are largely communists, socialists and communists. They're the ones that kill their own people. They're the ones that enslave their own people. They're the ones that export terror. Now we've got the Islamic connection to the radical Islamists who are doing the same thing. So we got two. We've got the commies and the radical Islamists. But you're never allowed, if you're a Democrat, to actually confront the evil. You're supposed to look inward and find out why they hate you. Why do they hate us so much? What have we done to deserve this? Maybe if we would just change. No. Listen, the only thing that's going to stop that, and it won't stop it, it's just going is to give up and let them take over. Well, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not. I am a 55-year-old white gay Republican guy, and I have no intention of living one day under that kind of regime in my own country, at least. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. So I will be honest with you. I would rather see us bomb the hell out of people on the other side of the planet. As much as I enjoy traveling, as much as I respect other people and other cultures, if you come for me and you come for America and you're trying to threaten my way of life here, which is all about freedom, you're going to have a problem. So maybe you should back up. You know, maybe you should back up. Maybe the Chinese should back up. Maybe Iran should have backed up. You're not going to stand on the same platform with us. You're not going to threaten America and get away with it. You're not going to kill Americans and get away with it. And quite frankly, I do think we need to do some soul searching internally. I'm so sorry it has gotten to this point domestically where we need to question the intentions and the behaviors of some of our own people. God, I mean, how awful is that? But, we can close our eyes to it and act like we don't need to do that. And the next thing you know, we're going to have more domestic terrorism, and we'll be in the middle of some sort of bastardized civil war here. And I think I have repeated, I knew I used to say this on the radio, and I've said it pretty frequently on this program. I think we're headed towards a civil war, and that's awful. We've got to stop that from happening. And part of that is reclaiming the culture so that you're proud to be an American and that you understand what freedom is, that you understand what the parameters of freedom are, which means you got to let people live their own lives without messing with them. I'm prepared to do that. But it also means you got to check people when they decide that they're going to cross over into your existence and start causing you a conflict. Got to check them, because if you don't, you wind up with dramatic problems everywhere in the culture. Which brings us to our next topic. Very domestic for people who are watching here in Virginia. But for the folks who are watching outside of Virginia from other parts of the country, this is really important. It's another case of bad Democrat policy. You have the new governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, who campaigned as a moderate, told everybody, "Oh yeah, I don't vote. I'm the most bipartisan member of the House of Representatives." No one really checked her on that. She just got to say it. No one ever really. Well, tell me three times. What one time you could probably come up with one thing where you voted against Nancy Pelosi? Maybe I don't know what it would be, but give me three times where you have bucked your own party. Did anybody ask that question? I mean, I was I was watching the campaign pretty closely all last year. Did anybody sit down with Abigail Spanberger, the candidate, the former congresswoman? So it's a voting record now. It's not just her talking about stuff. She's got a voting record. Tell me behind the scenes, tell me three times where you bucked your own party. If you're so bipartisan and you're so independent minded, which is supposedly what everybody wanted, but it's not what they wanted. They don't want independence. Even Republicans don't want independence. I mean, look at me, for example. There are a lot of people who don't like folks who cannot be controlled. And I don't know if you're paying attention, but you're never going to control me with money or with orders or anything else. I very responsible person. I'm happy to talk to everyone. I'm happy to listen. Listen, a lot of people don't want to ever listen to anyone else. I'm a talk show host, but I do a good job of listening to other people. But one thing you need to know if you're dealing with me, whether I'm an employee or a colleague or a partner or whatever, you're not going to control me. And that rubs a lot of people, even in the Republican Party, the wrong way. Sorry. I think you actually need a couple more independent-minded people if you're going to survive. But no one asked that question of Abigail Spanberger when she was running. What the hell? She just gets to claim that she's really bipartisan. She's really open-minded. She's really moderate. Tell me, lady, how that is so. Nobody bothers to dig into that. They release some fake tape of her chastising Nancy Pelosi. Producer Dan can vouch for this. When that happened, I told everybody, I was like, you know what? Nobody is releasing a tape of them talking to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, especially a vindictive woman like Nancy Pelosi, unless there's an agreement. That ain't happening. How often, and I use, for example, how often has that happened? It doesn't happen. People don't do that. They don't just release a tape or a tape suddenly gets secreted out to the Washington Post, because if it does, there are consequences within your own caucus. That was planned to try to make Abigail Spanberger look like she was really bucking the system. Baloney, totally fake, not true. I'm just telling you, that does not happen. And I've been watching this stuff, and I've been in the room when people have been having very heated and animated conversations. And when they walk out, they still do not do stuff like that. And certainly not against Nancy Pelosi, because she looks like some little lady from San Francisco. She's a thug within her party. She'll cut your throat, and she surrounds herself with people who have that attitude. I mean, that's a tough leadership style. Maybe Republicans should have a couple of people like her. I don't know. But here in Virginia, you have the supposed moderate Abigail Spanberger as governor. And what is today? The 5th of March. So she was sworn in on January 17th. We're not even at 2 months yet of her being governor. The first thing she did was say that Virginia police officers and elected officials are not going to cooperate with immigration. They're not going to cooperate with federal law enforcement anymore when it comes to illegals. And her whole hypothesis is doing this means that we can focus on protecting people in their communities. Bull. And everybody knows it. And it makes me question her actual credentials as a supposed law enforcement person. I mean, I know she was Inspector Gadget or whatever at the Postal Service. I'm still, no offense to my friends at the Postal Service, but how do I put this polite? I mean, if I have respect for everybody and every job is important, but please don't try to tell me that if you're the postal inspector, especially if you're Abigail Spanberger, the postal inspector, that you're James Bond. Because I don't know. I don't think that's my ignorance. I think that's me pulling focus on what's real and somebody trying to turn that into. I mean, it's like me talking about how I was an intern to Ronald Reagan. I've had people introduce me. Oh, he was an advisor to Ronald Reagan in the White House. Well, no, I wish I was. No, I wasn't. It was what it was. It was an internship that turned into a year of service to the former president. That was important, and I'm very proud to have had that opportunity, and I think I did a good job. But it'd be wrong for me to kind of overinflate it to try to impress you in some way with something that's just not true. I get the impression that that's the deal with Abigail, the governor, when it comes to the postal inspector thing. And then when I see decisions like this, where the governor says we're not going to cooperate with local law enforcement's not going to cooperate with ICE, and then you're foolish enough to say this is going to allow us to protect the local people. Bull. I mean, it just defies logic, and it's insulting to everyone who is a local law enforcement official, whether the postal inspector or whether they're the SRO, the school resource officer, whether they're the Secret Service. I mean, it's just absurd. And everybody, come on, let's be honest with each other. It's absurd. It's outrageous. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. And yet she gets away with saying this stupid stuff, and no one apparently can question her on it. And now we've got the real world consequences. Dead people, murdered people, like this 41-year-old lady, Stephanie Minter from Fredericksburg, who is stabbed to death at a bus stop up in Fairfax County. So, you're not protecting people, and we're going to see more of these types of crimes because you've got this Democrat mindset of not prosecuting violent people. That could be domestic people who are full-blown American, were born here. There was, they weren't naturalized. They're not here on some sort of visa. This is the attitude of the modern Democrat Party. They claim to want to stop gun crime, but then when somebody commits a crime with a gun, they don't prosecute the people who actually commit the crime. So explain to me, really and truly, explain to me how that saves lives. This wasn't even a gun crime. This was a knife crime. And in Fairfax, the horrible prosecutor, who really, we need to come up with a name other than prosecutor because he's not a prosecutor. He's like the anti-prosecutor. This guy is not putting people in jail and not fully charging them if they are committing crimes. And we now know because one reporter up in Northern Virginia, this Nick Minnock guy at WJLA, Channel 7 in Washington, he's actually doing real reporting. He's FOIA'd, Freedom of Information Act, the documents that show that the cops warned the prosecutor, like this person is a danger to society. He's been arrested 30 times. Don't let him out. He's nuts. He's crazy. He's violent. He's going to kill somebody. Descano, the anti-prosecutor, doesn't care. Lets him out. And now we have this lady who's been stabbed to death. And he shouldn't even be here. The guy shouldn't even be in the country. He's now on the radar multiple times for committing crime. And Governor Spanberger doesn't think that local officials should cooperate with immigration to get him off of our streets and out of our country. I would like to know what Abigail Spanberger wants to say to the family of this 41-year-old woman. The policies that you're choosing have real-world consequences, and this is a totally unnecessary situation that she's caused. Let's listen real quick to Nick Minnock explain the Spanberger issue here.
I've seen the news out of Virginia where an illegal immigrant from Sierra Leone is accused of brutally murdering a Virginia woman at a Fairfax County bus stop. And Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger says if ICE and DHS want this man deported, they should get a signed judicial warrant. So what is that exactly? What is a judicial warrant that ICE and DHS would need to get? Well, I've spoken with some experts, some former federal prosecutors, and they say even if ICE or DHS went to the local court at the general district and circuit court level in Fairfax County, they could not get a warrant if they wanted to. That's what they tell me. And even immigration advocate lawyers tell me they couldn't do that either. However, those immigration advocates lawyers say they could go to a federal judge and get a warrant, but there's some disagreement there. Jonathan Fahey, Zach Smith, former federal prosecutors, they say that this man would need a federal charge in order for ICE and DHS to do that. And right now, this man is facing a state charge, murder. And by the way, this man has 40 other past charges on his record, more than 30 past arrests, and the Fairfax County Commonwealth's attorney has dropped almost every single charge before this brutal murder. And ICE tonight is saying that ICE does not need a warrant to make an arrest. In fact, no judge in this country has the authority to issue a warrant for a civil immigration violation. So back to this judicial warrant. Some experts are telling me that Governor Spanberger is requesting something that does not exist.
See? I mean, good for Nick Minnock. He's the only reporter who seems to be digging around on this stuff with the Freedom of Information Act and then reporting back on it. I think that's important. You know, he's also, from what I'm told from my friend, remember I was a TV reporter for 10 years. I'm told that the Spanberger people hate him, and they won't answer questions from him, supposedly. They don't send him the emails. Oh, we forgot to send you the email. We're having a press conference. And, oh, we're going to answer questions from everybody here except you. So don't think it's just Donald Trump singling out CNN. You know, like, I don't like CNN. Abigail Spanberger and her people, I am told, I haven't witnessed it personally in all fairness, but I am told that they hate this guy because he's the only one who actually puts them on the spot and asks questions like this. And speaking of people who won't answer questions from the press, you know, the little Ayatollah, Ghazala Hashmi, she certainly is full of herself. I mean, I knew during the campaign she refused to answer questions. She refused to debate. She just felt like, you know, that was beneath her to actually speak to the people or talk to her opponent. So the little Ayatollah is marching through the state capitol yesterday. And who knew the lieutenant governor had a bodyguard, multiple bodyguards like this? I was unaware of that. When I worked in the Capitol, you kind of saw the lieutenant governor walking around. I mean, maybe in recent years it's gotten so bad in a Democrat Virginia where you need to have bodyguards because the criminals know they run the show. You know, perhaps that's. But watch this. Here's the same reporter, seemingly the only reporter who's going to aggressively go after this, trying to talk to the little Ayatollah, Ghazala Hashmi, about this issue. And watch what happens. It's shocking to me.
I also attempted to ask Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi about the case.
I'm Nick Minnock with 7 News. Just want to get your reaction to the murder of a woman in Fairfax County at the hands of allegedly an illegal immigrant. What is your reaction? Lieutenant Governor, what's your reaction to this murder in Fairfax County? No response? What do you have
That's
to say
who
to
you
the
put
family
in.
of Stephanie Mentor, Lieutenant Governor?
There you go. I mean, look, I'm telling you, as a political person, she's a fool because that would have been the perfect moment to stop and offer condolences to the family. That would have been the moment. And then you would have looked like you actually pretended to care, but she doesn't care. And she doesn't think she has to answer any questions. And I can tell you as a reporter, as a former reporter, you touch me, you put your hands on me in the state capitol. I mean, Nick Minnock, did he run up to her? Did he stick the mic in her face? He didn't do anything wrong with his engagement there. That was the normal behavior of a reporter in the state capitol where you should be asking questions of elected officials. He didn't do anything wrong. And whoever that was, the security guy, actually puts his hand on him and pushes him out of the way. And the little Ayatollah doesn't have anything to say about it. Something's wrong. Listen, guys, this is who you put in charge in Virginia, and you're going to get bad results from it. That was a really bad look for anybody. And I would say it if it was a Republican, too. You know, no comment after somebody's murdered and your policies are in question, defend your freaking policies, lady, and tell your security guy not to touch reporters in the Capitol when they're asking questions that you don't like. Whew. People should be hot about this. And actually, where's the press corps? I think the press corps should uniformly be really offended by that and raising hell. We'll talk about this some more because it ain't going away. I'm not going to let it go away. Give me a break. The, people are dying because Democrats are making bad decisions, and somebody's got to try to hold them accountable. We'll be back in just a moment. Andy Bernstein joins us. Speaking of this situation, he's written a new story called "The Left's War Against America and Western Civilization." Pretty timely. We'll talk about that with Andy in a moment on the Reid Revolution. Back on this Thursday morning on the Reid Revolution, I'm John Reid, and we are glad you're with us. I want to remind you that tomorrow starts the vote on this illegal gerrymandering referendum across the state of Virginia. And the courts are not going to save you. The politicians are not going to save you. If you want fair representation, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, whoever you are, this is your moment to say this process of redistricting needs to stay out of the Capitol and with a nonpartisan group that will do this fairly. The Democrats don't care. They think that everyone's going to cave, either not paying attention or because they hate Donald Trump so much. The voting starts tomorrow. So I would encourage all of you to go and cast your vote as soon as possible so that we can bank as many votes as possible. It's probably a low turnout election, and the future of Virginia, truly, I mean, I know we say this about every election, but this is the real thing. If you're a Republican, you're probably not going to have a voice in the United States Congress if this goes through. And it ain't going to be temporary, despite what the Democrats say. Voting starts tomorrow for this illegal gerrymandering. And nobody's going to save you except yourself. All right, Andy Bernstein, Professor Andy Bernstein is with us. He's written a new article called "The Left's War Against America and Western Civilization." It's in Capitalism magazine. And Professor, I appreciate you joining us. I mean, it's interesting that we booked you, over a week ago to come on the program, and then we've seen the war start, or at least the next step in the war. I mean, they've been at war with us for 5 decades. And you see the story that I just illuminated here in Virginia. Why is the left so hostile to everything in our own society?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Of course,
John.
yeah.
I have a cold and everything, so I'm a little bit hoarse. But
you sound good. Don't worry.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, the left cares about one thing and only one thing, and that's power. And by the left here, I mean the consistent leftists, the communists, the Nazis, or National Socialists, the fascists, those who are collectivists, who claim to care about the state, don't care about individual rights, reject individual rights. They want one thing and only one thing, and that's power. And the leftists in America, are they communists yet? No, but they're trending strongly in that direction. Mamdani in New York City is the latest. And look at what they've done. Look at their policies. Playing the long game. For 100 years, they've controlled the school system. What have they done with it? They've dumbed it down severely. They, are fighting against phonics and reading, for example. As a college professor, I've seen many of these good kids, but they struggle just to read. And then today, indoctrinate them with leftist propaganda. Capitalism is evil. White Americans are racist. We're living on stolen land. Man-made global warming is destroying the planet. The kids may not know how to read very well, and they don't know American history or any history, but they know all this communist propaganda. And they're softening the American population up for a communist dictatorship. So let me just give you one more example. The violence in the streets, the endless, the George Floyd riots, the Antifa riots in Portland, the fighting against ICE in Minneapolis, And I'll make a very safe prediction: the left will riot in the streets many more times over the next few years. What's that all about? Why? Well, you look at what the masters have done, John. How did Lenin and Trotsky come to power in Russia? How did Mussolini come to power in Italy? How did Hitler come to power in Weimar Germany? Part of it was they had their thugs in the streets, endless street violence and rioting. Or why? Well, if healthy everyday people they can't get to work, they can't get to school, they can't get to the stores to shop, you completely disrupt their lives. Most of them want to live under relative freedom, but if that's the way relative freedom is going to lead to that kind of violence, they're much readier for a strong man to come along and say, I will impose law and order on these guys and keep the streets safe. All of their policies are designed to overthrow freedom and capitalism and individual rights and impose either a communist or Nazi dictatorship. And by the way, they're not just communists or trending towards communism in America today. There is a Nazi element. They're racist. They're racist to the core. They hate white people. They hate Jews. Uh, they've introduced this Nazi race war element into their traditional class war philosophy. So they're a hybrid now, moving towards not just communism, but some hybrid of communism and National Socialism. So it's really scary, and they're power hungry, and they mean it.
Is there an example in contemporary society? And it's a different society than it was even when Ronald Reagan successfully finished the Cold War. Reagan won, Reagan two, George H.W. Bush won. That was a 12-year period to bring down the Soviet Union, and they were bankrupt, and that's what ultimately did it to them. And I'm worried that we're on track for that same fate since we're $39 trillion in debt. I mean, I don't know why that's not a panic point for everybody in the country. But with social media and the influence that has, something can happen in Los Angeles right now, and an hour later, there can be people in the streets in Washington, D.C., or in Richmond, Virginia, or in Boca Raton, Florida, responding to what happened. I mean, it's instantaneous now with social media. You don't even have a filter from a Walter Cronkite in New York or, a Brian Williams at NBC. There's no filter anymore. It's just whatever you see, you can push a button and people will respond to it. So it's a new world. Is there any example of righting the ship here with the good guys, and that's subjective, but the good guys stopping the leftists who are promoting this violence? Because I think the trick here has been, we're going to make life so miserable for you that you're going to be looking for a solution, and then guess what? Your only solution is to elect us, and then we'll stop making life miserable in the same way for you. And then normal, responsible people get shafted because they're not a part of the socialist communist movement.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, there are these good news success stories. You mentioned Reagan's policies helping to bring down the Soviet Empire, which was huge. And Trump may be, let's hope, may be on the verge of a similar success story if he brings down that brutal regime of the Ayatollahs in Iran. That would be another tremendous foreign policy victory. But domestically, got to give the leftists credit. They've played the long game. They've taken over the school system. That's critical. They control the teachers' colleges, the humanities divisions in our universities, the departments of education, the school system, most of the private schools. One thing that has to be done to defeat the left is parents have to step up, parent power in education. Pull the kids out of this corrupt school system. It's not going to get any better. It's only going to get worse. Either homeschool them or hire tutors, for them, or form what they call micro schools. Micro schools, these. There are still many good classroom teachers, John, and they're as disgruntled as the parents are. And a lot of those teachers will contract with parents, form a small private school in one of the parents' basement, the return of the one-room schoolhouse, where she knows, usually a woman, sometimes a man, but she knows, the kids need phonics to learn how to read. The kids need the truth about American history, the full truth. slavery and Jim Crow and all that stuff, yeah. But all the good news too about the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution and all the great things that America has,
Well,
has done.
that's right, Professor. I mean, you can tell the same story in different ways with different results. You can tell someone the story of Nelson Mandela, right? I
Mhm.
could tell Nelson Mandela's story, and I could make you hate him if I wanted to do that. Or I can tell the story of Nelson Mandela in a heroic way and make you think he's the greatest person. I mean, where is the truth there? I think it deserves some analysis. But what we're doing domestically, and you can see this with that slave exhibition in Philadelphia at the first president's house, the remnants of that. The Trump administration, I think, has decided this 250th birthday year is going to be a year to celebrate America, the greatness of America, the successes of America, the evolution of thought in America, instead of lamenting every bad thing that ever
Yeah,
happened. And
yeah,
these
no,
judges won't allow it.
no, I know, and we should teach the bad stuff because it's true. But in America, there's vastly more good than bad.
Hmm.
Not just the
I
Declaration of
think that's true.
Independence and the U.S. Constitution, but notice something. I mean, Thomas Edison and electricity, the Wright brothers and aviation, the creation of the film industry, all the great literature. There's been so much creativity in America. Plus, consider this, John. How many countries have had a civil rights movement that went from, hating black Americans to, electing Barack Obama, bad as he was, but the first biracial president. There's no, these human rights movements around the world in North Korea and Sudan. They never get off the ground. They can't get started. There's no principle of individual rights in their
Hmm.
heritage. We have it. We're able to fight the anti-black racism and do much better on that issue because of our heritage going back of individual rights going back to Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence and James Madison in the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution. Nobody's done what we've done on combating racism. I mean, look at multiracial societies around the world. In the Ottoman Empire, they murdered 1.5 million Armenians in the Armenian genocide in 1950. In Germany, they murdered 5 to 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. We saw the Rwandan genocide and in 1994, and many others of these kind of murderous atrocities. But America has moved away from Jim Crow laws and segregation and anti-black hatred. We've made real progress on it, even though the leftists won't admit it. But we know, rational Americans know we've made real progress on the anti-black prejudice in this country.
So the solution is to get your kids out of the government schools. And here in Virginia, Democrats are trying to make that very, very difficult. They
Oh
don't
yeah,
want homeschool. They don't want independent school choice. They
right.
want you to turn your children over to the Marxists, and then it shouldn't surprise us that they deliver little Marxists at the end of the school year. That's what you're
especially
going to
the
get.
especially the kids who go on to college. There are still some good universities, some departments, and some universities are still very
Hmm.
good. But more and more and more, the kids come out of college with being indoctrinated with leftist propaganda. Some of which we mentioned at the top of the discussion. That's what the kids are going to get predominantly today
Yeah.
in the private schools, the public schools, the universities. Homeschooling is really good. The metrics show the kids score better on academic tests. They read better. They
Hmm.
know more history and so on. Tutors, tutors for the kids are very effective. And like I said, the micro schools, the teachers who are as disgruntled as the parents, starting small schools in the parents' basement or rec room, very, very much more effective in teaching the kids academics, what they should be doing, teaching them to
If you're
read, write,
if
and,
you're
and,
a
and basic math skills.
if you're a parent though, and your kid is 17, 18, I really wanted to just start working when I finished high school. It wasn't a hostility towards academia as much as it was I just wanted to start working. And my dad sat me down and said, "You are gonna. It's great that you want to start working and that you want to get your career going, but you're gonna get that college degree because without it, you are 10 steps behind everyone else who has the degree." Is that still true today? You think?
Not financially. We see, if, in the universities, notice more than half, in some cases, many more than half the students are women. where are the men? Many of them are going into the trades. They're
Hmm.
they're becoming gardeners or plumbers or carpenters or
That's a
construction
problem,
workers.
though,
They're
for the
doing
people who
well.
would be on track for another type of job. I'll use the shorthand, the white collar job. I'm not sure I would have been a good um, tradesman. That is just not the skill set that I've got.
Hmm.
And maybe I could have developed that. I don't know, but really those positions in corporate America seem to still be locked up with people who've gone not for a liberal education where you're really knowledgeable about the world and about philosophy and you can read and write and think analytically and critically, but people who've been indoctrinated. And if you
Yeah.
don't check those boxes, you're not going to get one of those
But
positions.
notice, to your point, John, notice how woke so woke so many of the corporations are. Was it a few years ago, 5 years ago, maybe, when Coke's training program could remember that story here? We had to be less white.
It was
Uh,
anti-white.
yeah,
Wasn't just
it's
pro-minority, it was anti-white. Yeah.
it's revoltingly evil. So I
Hmm.
mean, for the people who want to work in corporate America and don't want to, this woke mentality, you really have to be strong. You have to go to school, and you have to do, listen to what the professors say in class. You don't, in many cases, you don't want to argue with the professors because they might grade you down. But do the reading and the thinking independently. I would read
Hmm.
Ayn Rand's novels, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. I would read the U.S. Constitution. I would read the Declaration of Independence. I would read the Federalist Papers. I would read free market economics like Henry Hazlitt, Milton Friedman. So you could fight off, at least in your own mind, you could fight off the indoctrination in the universities. But the people we need as individual Americans, John. We need to be independent minded. Do the reading, do the thinking on our own, because for the most part, we're not going to get that in the school system or the universities.
Yeah. Well, we're waking up to it
Yeah, yeah, we are.
a decade or two
Well,
late, but
you
there's
know, I
still
just want to
hope,
say,
I guess.
yeah, I think so. I just want to say, for all of Donald Trump's flaws, I think he's really good on this in many ways. What did he say that, that they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in their way. You
Hmm.
know, I salute Donald Trump because I think he loves America, which the left does not. The left hates America, and I
Yeah.
disagree with him on a bunch of stuff. But he loves America, and I'm very glad he's president rather than any of the Rhino Republicans, and certainly more so than the Democrats. And so, his patriotism can be infectious. And I hope hopefully more people, get that patriotism from Trump and do the reading to validate it.
Hmm.
Do the reading that shows the superiority of capitalism to socialism, communism, fascism, and so on.
Well, you may remember this, Professor. Remember Reagan coming off of Jimmy Carter,
Hmm.
national malaise minimally and
Hmm.
self-loathing beginning to take hold in the late 70s. We had the
Oh yeah.
hostage crisis. That's what
Uh,
catapulted Reagan into office as a president. He got off to a rough start with the economy. Things were not great at the beginning of the Reagan administration. But then when we got to 1984, think about it. We had the Olympics in Los Angeles, where America did, I mean, it was great. It was an amazing period of time with American success stories, not unlike the men's team and the women's team in hockey winning the gold medal. There was a resurgence of patriotism. It makes me wonder if that's the reason that they didn't market the Olympics the same way this year. And here we are a week or two after the Olympics ended, and we've kind of crossed over into not talking about the Olympics anymore. And you had the rededication in 1986 of the Statue of Liberty, which was another national moment of patriotism and domestic pride. And I'm wondering whether the coupling of the Olympics this year and the gold medal winners, which touches a different audience than those of us who are interested in the academic conversation. The sports fans, the people who really don't want to get involved in government and this type of debate, coupled with this 250th anniversary, maybe that's the magic that will recreate that resurgence of domestic pride and patriotism that Reagan benefited from.
No,
What do
that's
you
a good
think?
that's a good point. I think, again, I want to give Trump credit. I think to a significant degree, Donald Trump has made patriotism cool again. He's made it, for a lot of young people around the country, maybe not so much in New York or San Francisco, on the in real leftist environments, but across the country, I think to a significant degree, Trump's attitude, his love of America is infectious. And I think he's made patriotism and love of America, to be stylish again, to be in style, to be cool. And I think that's a great tribute to Trump. And this is a big anniversary year for the United States. And with Trump in office, I think a lot of the good things in American history will be
Will be
celebrated.
highlighted.
We'll discuss all the bad stuff. All societies have bad things in them, but America has so much great stuff in it, and I think Trump and his team will highlight that. And I think that's a really
Yeah.
good thing. And I think that's very
Yeah,
helpful.
usually birthday parties, you don't highlight the lamentations of life. Like on my 50th birthday, it wasn't like, remember that time you lost your job, and remember that time you were drunk and you mouthed off to somebody, and remember that time that you had a really ugly breakup. You don't talk about those things at a birthday party. You talk about, hopefully, you emerging from the bad moments. It's really an odd mindset that the left is obsessed with everything that's wrong, and yet they don't fix it. It's
Well, no, they don't want to fix it. They want
yeah,
they want to guilt us with
exploit it.
with all the bad stuff that we've done,
Yeah,
so that we renounce the freedom of the American heritage and embrace communism. That's what they want
yeah.
to do.
All right. Well, I can't wait to read your new piece, "The Left's War Against America and Western Civilization," in Capitalism magazine. Professor Andy Bernstein, always appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Thanks, John.
Thank
It's
you.
always great being on. Thank you.
And thanks for hanging out for a couple of minutes when I got long-winded. I apologize for leaving you on hold for a second there. You're
No,
kind.
no problem. It's your show, John. So
Hopefully you
no
were
problem.
nodding your head as I was talking instead of like, when is this guy going to shut up? Thank you.
Well, I thought you made some good points.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. All right.
Thank
Let's
you.
take a quick break here. Um, one of the things about the podcast is that there's not the same time limitations, which is great for someone like me who was constantly in trouble at the radio station because I would talk too long, and they were like, you need to get the ads in, you need to get the commercials in, how dare you talk too long. But I was trying to make a point, and since it's a podcast, you don't have the same limitations, but occasionally I have left people waiting, and I always want them to know that it's not meant out of disrespect for them. It's just trying to make the point without being forced to go. But Andy was sitting there for a little while, so I wanted to say that. And hopefully you in the audience don't get fed up with it. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back. Now, this is going to be an interesting interview. The former Speaker of the House of Delegates, Bill Howe, joins us. And with the start of this illegal gerrymandering referendum tomorrow, the voting starts tomorrow, and the courts, I mean, they're just not going to make the Democrats obey the law or their own rules, apparently. What does the former speaker say? And is there a reference point where Republicans, in Virginia at least, could have done something similar to what the Democrats are trying to do? And should we take a lesson from that? We'll talk to Bill Howe when we return on the Reid Revolution. Welcome back to the Reid Revolution on this Thursday morning. I'm John Reid. Voting does begin tomorrow, Friday, March the 6th, in this illegal gerrymandering plan that the Democrats have concocted and that they're pushing through. And if we were just a regular state without a constitutional amendment banning this, that was just passed a couple of years ago, then perhaps this would be a more legitimate effort. But instead, the Democrats are breaking their own rules. They're breaking the laws of the Commonwealth with the timing and the bases that have to be touched if you want to promote a constitutional amendment or put that before the voters on the ballot. And no one seems to care. The courts have completely walked away, and it makes me wonder whether there's something going on behind the scenes. I've kind of lost I hate to say this, I've kind of lost faith in the courts in Virginia. There've been a few decisions in the last 5 or 6 years that it's not just that I disagree with it, it's that I don't understand how you can read a document and make the decisions that the court has made when the law is pretty clear about it. And I think we have reason to be alarmed by the mindset of a lot of the judges, including those who've been appointed by Republican governors who don't seem to want to stand up for clear written law. I think we got a problem on our hands. But this is now a political issue, and no one's going to save you. You either vote tomorrow, between tomorrow and April 21st, and stop this from happening, stop the power grab, or, I mean, we'll all still keep fighting, but it's going to be very difficult if you got 10 Democrats representing Virginia in the House of Representatives and one Republican, and there's 40 some percent of the Virginia population votes Republican on a regular basis and their voice is silenced. I mean, really, one thing I'll say is I don't want to ever hear one word from the Democrats about how they're trying to protect democracy when their response to what Donald Trump has done is to stomp on the voters of this state with a constitutional amendment. Just throw the constitutional amendment out. Someone who's watched the evolution of how we've gotten to this place is the former delegate who became the Speaker of the House of Delegates for an extended period of time, Bill Howell, who doesn't do a lot of press these days, but is willing to talk to us today. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate it. And that's your wife's name there on the screen. There you go. I'm glad to see you. How are you these days? I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Been doing well. Yeah, it's been a while. One of the things you find out when you leave the speaker's office or whatever is people forget about you pretty quickly, which is not all bad. I'm delighted to be on your show. But it really is a problem that's before us. And you talked about how the Republicans tried to do this when they were in control of the Senate. And let me talk about that for a little bit.
Yes, please do.
I think it means a lot with what we're talking about today. When President Obama had his first inauguration, State Senator Henry Marshall went to the inaugural ceremonies, and so he was not in the Senate seat, which gave the Republicans in the Senate a majority, and they quickly changed a bill that had come over, a little innocuous bill from the House dealing with redistricting, but making some fine tuning. They took that bill and just plastered it with a whole new map of areas that would be attractive to Republicans. And it passed the Senate because, again, they had the majority because Senator Marsh was out of town. But so it came over to the House, and I got a lot of visits in my office from state senators saying this is awful the way they've done this. You can't pass this in the House, or people on the other side saying, hey, boy, this is good. We got them now, and we passed this thing because we had a majority in the House at that time. And I think a lot of people thought, well, we'll just go ahead and rubber stamp it and go with it. But the more I looked into it, and the more I thought about it, prayed about it, it was easy to see that it wasn't the right way to legislate, not the way to do it. And again, I had a lot of people coming back and forth from my office. And finally, we had an opportunity. Delegate Orrock from the Spotsylvania area asked the speaker, was the bill that came over from the Senate germane to the original bill that came out of the House? And I think probably most people are aware of the germaneness issue. We use it a lot. It basically says that a bill that's passed in one body has to be similar to another body, coming from the other body, or it's not appropriate. And this clearly was not appropriate. It was not. Changing the whole map had nothing to do with changing these one or two little things, and so I ruled it was out of order and basically killed it. And I got some flack from it, as you might imagine, from within my own caucus. A handful of them were really pretty upset, but they got over it and moved on.
And let me ask you about that map. What was the dynamic of that proposed new map, Republican, Democrat? Because this one, if it passes on April 21st, will obliterate Republican representation, and 5 of the seats, if I'm looking at the map correctly, will be anchored in Northern Virginia, with people in other parts of the state having a congressperson from Northern Virginia, maybe even 5 congresspeople from Fairfax County alone, instead of people from all over the state. It's pretty dramatic. What was that map?
Well, it made the different districts more Republican friendly. It wasn't as dramatic as what has been done now, in the sense, but it was pretty rough. And again, it was done purely to sidestep the normal process, and that's the point. I think here now, when we talk about what we're dealing with today, the redistricting issue, there's not a question of is it germane, because it hasn't really even gotten that far. Mm-hmm. But what it is a question of is, as your previous professor said, I love Virginia. Virginia's been a wonderful place for decades, and one of the things that has always stood out is our integrity, fair play, those kind of things. Well, this bill eliminates integrity, and it eliminates the honor we have in this legislature that we've had for some time. And I think it's setting a bad precedent. It's over 3 million people voted to change the way we do our redistricting, as you know, and the point that was being pushed was the people that are the citizens in the Commonwealth don't have any say so. The whole thing was done by the legislators, and they draw their own lines, and so they had a constitutional amendment to say that we'll have non-legislative people draw these lines, and the Democrats loved it. They were big pushes of it, because at the time I think we still had a majority, and they thought, well, let's go ahead and do this, and then we'll have a different thing. And but now they've just turned 180 degrees on that. They're not interested in transparency. They're not interested in taking it to the people. They're not interested in voting in a way. And then they just, as you said earlier, they just tore through the Constitution. They missed times, they missed dates, they did all sorts of things. It's clearly, I think, illegal. And to your point, it'd be interesting to see if in fact the state does anything about it. They put it off so far, kick the can down the road. Let's see what the people say. And now the people will have that chance to vote no. But if it loses, in my thing, if the vote says yes, we want that, because these horrible ads that they're running on television, they're just false. There ought to be some law against saying that we're doing it the fair way, when they're doing it anyway but that. But the point is, if a majority votes for this proposal, will the Supreme Court then step in and say, okay, the people have spoken, this is what the law is going to be?
Well, that's probably, I don't know, but you tell me your opinion. I don't see any court, once the vote has been taken, overturning the will of the people. I mean, if they vote it down, I guess then it's a moot issue. But why do you think the court is making the decisions? The Supreme Court, in particular, is
Yeah.
making the decisions that it is. I mean, my thought, and this is awful to say, is that some of them are scared of the Democrats. Am I being conspiratorial? And is that crazy for me to say, or do you think that maybe there's something to that?
No, I think a lot of people are probably thinking that. I don't want to say it publicly too much, but because I like some of the people that I know on the Supreme Court. But it does make you wonder what they're thinking. It doesn't look good. It doesn't. It looks like
Because am I wrong, Mr. Speaker? The rules, the law is very clear about the timetable. I mean, it is what it is. They set up the timetable, and Democrats put in this 45 days of voting on stuff like this. Well, that wasn't Republicans. That was Democrats choosing it. So, hey, you're stuck with your own rules. Why do you think there's not this requirement to be very strict about something that is clear? The dates, touch the bases, make sure that you do it the right way. I mean, I understand they want to win this year and they want to stick it in the face of Donald Trump, but you still got to obey the law, I thought.
particularly the Constitution. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. I'm not sure what's going through their minds or how it's going to turn out. Obviously, I think the thing is everybody ought to go out and vote no and just leave it at that. And that'll, because this is really very poorly put together, and it's not the right thing to do when you got some guy in Botetourt whose congressman lives in McLean. It's just wrong. And but the thing that I want to hit is not, this is not an issue that's looking at germaneness. This is an issue of honor, of integrity, of the speakers. When I was making this choice, one of the things about what had come over from the Senate on the other bill, one of the things I was concerned about is when you're Speaker of the House, that's a special opportunity you have to do things right, and you don't want to leave. One speaker one time back when we were in the minority, somebody questioned him about is this a germane issue, and he said no, it's not. And I make the decisions on whether something's germane or not, and that's not the way to do it. And it's anyway, it's a long torn out problem. I really fear for Virginia. If our legislature has no honor, has no integrity, what's that going to mean to the rest of the people? I don't know. But
I thought it was interesting that you said that you'd prayed about it and that you thought about it, and you were getting great pressure from your Republican friends and the caucus members trying to push you to do something that you didn't think was the right thing to do, which clearly would have benefited your party if you'd been able to claim additional seats, and you still chose not to do it. And that's what we used to call the Virginia way. It was kind of that selfless mindset. Now people are trying to claim that the Virginia way is all about racism. I reject that. But tell me tell me about those situations and the distinction between the mindset when you were in the legislature and leading the House versus what you're observing today.
Well, I can't really say who's doing what. I don't follow them that closely. But to me, this is an easy issue. As you pointed out several times, all the flaws in the way you change the Constitution that have been overlooked. The fact that it was all done almost kind of in the dark of night after these people voting for transparency in the process.
Right. Yeah.
And it just to me, I don't know how you sleep at night, but it's a problem it's a problem of honor, integrity, and the Speaker's promise. The Speaker's got some say in this.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you have a? You've watched the last couple elections. I assume you were paying attention to the numbers, which weren't great for Republicans in 2025. And I personally, without looking, I mean, I'm not trying to find a scapegoat for my loss, but I think a lot of that was a statement against President Trump from people who have been convinced that they just hate him and they'll do whatever they can to send him a message that they don't like him. And it's unfortunate that Virginia's in that situation. But what do you think happens going forward? At some point, in 3 years, Trump won't be the president anymore, and then we're stuck with whatever the situation is in the Commonwealth. And it looks like it's getting worse rather than better. Political polarization.
It's a concern. I don't think any of us can look forward 3 years and think who the Republican candidate will be for president or whatever. But you're exactly right. In 2017, after I'd left the legislature, we lost about 15 votes, 15 members, good members, people, really smart people, because of just anger against the way the national situation was working. I really do think when you look at a place like Loudon, we lost several really sharp members from Loudoun County because the people up there were just fed up and wanted to. That was their way of showing it. I think, and you can. We've got to do a better job as Republicans on getting people to run for office. We've got to get the right people, and we've got to work with them. Something that really bothers me is the amount of money that the Democrats can pull on. They just pull the sources, Soros and people like that, and they get millions of dollars, and it's hard to compete against that. But we have.
Is there a solution?
Big part.
Is there a solution?
No,
I was kind of frozen out on money, but my opponent raised close to 10 million.
Yeah, and the solution is that the people that have great sums of money have to realize that they have an opportunity and an obligation to go for it, because the Democrats sure don't fuss about, well, I'm not going to give you $10 million. They got that guy down in Charlottesville that gives millions of dollars to people that won't take money from Dominion, and you got Soros, and you got all kinds of people. Well, we've got very wealthy people that are there because of the Republican creed, and you would think that they would step forward and say, I've got to do something to help. So that's an issue. Is we've got to raise more money. We have to get good candidates, and we have to get people that are there for the right reason. One thing that bothers me too, John, is this same group that's talking about the poor people and doing things to help the people that don't have as much money are giving themselves about a 30% increase in pay for being in the legislature. I've always thought that the legislature ought to be for people who are willing to make a commitment, and if they lose money back home, that's what they do. That's what they get. But this is an honor to be a member of the legislature. You shouldn't be doing it for the money, no matter what.
Well, it's interesting. There's a push now, and I just got the VCU magazine because I was an adjunct professor there one semester, so I'm on the mailing list. But there is a push, and this article articulates that you need to pay these people more. You need to give them a living wage. I think there's a push to make the legislature full-time in Virginia, which I think would be a horrible idea. For freedom in the Commonwealth, and that would make the bureaucracy full time too, the legislative bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And boy, what they would meddle with everything.
I always was opposed to raising the pay for the main reason is you don't want to get people that don't have to have other jobs. They can live off what they're getting from being in the legislature. And one of the real good things that we've always enjoyed in Virginia is we're all citizen legislators. Most of us are citizen legislators. That is, we don't make enough money to live from our legislative thing, so we have a job. and some of us are lawyers, some of us are attorneys. I mean, farmers. Some of us are, we had guys inventing things. Joe May was an inventor, and one of the things he invented was the yellow line that you see at the football games. Or he didn't. He
Really?
says he would tell me he didn't invent it. He just brought it to purpose. So anyway, if I had an issue about farming, there's a farmer I can go talk to about. If I have an issue about this or that, there are always people there. But if you have 100% people that are just there because they're making a living off their salary, they don't bring anything to the table.
Yeah. Or there's social justice warriors with an attitude and an axe to grind, which I think is what we're filled with right now.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Well, do it again. I'm just sitting at home with nothing to do, but I am encouraging. I am encouraging all my friends to get out and vote no. And I have a good friend that we get to get a group of us get together for coffee every Saturday morning. He's one of them. And I was talking about this, and he said, "Well, I'm glad you told me that." He said, "I was going to vote yes because you look at the advertisements on television, it makes sense." And so I worry about that too. So we just got to get the word out.
Boy, the manipulation of good people with this very deliberate misinformation campaign that's backed by millions of dollars from the national Democrats is really something to behold. It'll be a miracle if Republicans galvanize and go against this in mass. You have a prediction? Do you think Republicans will do it? Will show up?
Well, it's not just Republicans. I was talking to a guy the other night who's a hardcore Democrat, and his wife is a double hardcore Democrat, but they're both voting no because they don't like the way it works. And I would think a lot of people, particularly up in Northern Virginia, that work so hard to put these changes in.
I think maybe we just lost the feed. I'm sorry to hear that. But that was an interesting dynamic at the very end to say that there are some Democrats left who are fair-minded, who recognize that this is illegal, the way it's been put into into the process, that's not correct, and no one wants to stop it. That the idea itself of taking fair and balanced representation, currently 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans, and making it 10 Democrats, 1 Republican, when there's 40+% of the population voting Republican, that's obviously not right. That for Virginia to have a constitutional amendment, not just a law, but a constitutional amendment where we deliberately remove this from the politicians and said we're not going to allow the politicians to draw their own lines anymore, to change that at this stage, even with whatever else other states are doing, is a betrayal of the people of Virginia. And this very, very deliberate, deceptive wording, which is designed to trick people into voting. It's not an objective analysis of if you vote yes, this is what happens. If you vote no, this is what happens. I mean, it's a very deceptive. If this was a food product or a drug that was being marketed, there would be federal lawsuits about the deception that's being pulled on the voters of Virginia. I mean, collectively, it doesn't take a genius if you're at all objective to figure out who's trying to be deceptive and who's not. I'm not telling you that what's happening in Texas is great or happening in these other states is great. I think it's lousy. The Democrats have gerrymandered California, gerrymandered Massachusetts, gerrymandered parts of Pennsylvania, state after state after state. I think that's lousy. Virginia set a standard for the nation. I mean, it's still not perfect because you're trying to make something non-political that is political, but at least it's an effort not to make it hyper-political. We set the standard in the Commonwealth, and which I would expect from Virginians. Talk about the Virginia way. I would expect for Virginians to have a higher standard than everybody else. Maybe that makes me a little bit of a Virginia snob, but I I expect us to behave better than everybody else. And yet the barbarians the social justice warrior barbarians who hate Virginia and hate America have taken over, and they're trying to crash that system. I think regular people in all of the parties should be concerned about that. Well, I appreciate Speaker Howell joining us. You can tell it's not often that he does this type of media anymore, but I thought that perspective, when he had the opportunity to push through legislation that would obliterate the Democrat Party, he said he prayed about it and thought about Virginia and his responsibility as Speaker, and chose not to do that. And some of you will be screaming at the computer saying, well, this is why Republicans lose, because you, like in a horror movie, you don't kill the person. You let them live, and then they come back to harm you after the fact. You've seen that 1,000 times. Or are you being noble, and do you believe that in the end, doing the right thing and doing the noble thing will ultimately bring you victory? I guess we're going to find out. We'll take a break. We'll come back with producer Dan and the best of the internet segment in just a moment here on the Reid Revolution. Well, that was pretty good, producer Dan. I was actually wondering whether the former speaker would even be willing to come on, and the fact that he was willing to do that was super nice. I think it's interesting to put that in some historical context.
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that he would come on if I asked him, for sure. We go back a long ways. I told him yesterday when we were talking, I said, I'm not your lifelong friend, but you're my lifelong friend. So my parents ran his first campaign for House of Delegates in 1987.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay.
So so I've known the Howells for 45 years, to be precise. And
well, that's a good get, producer Dan. However, you made it happen.
Well, whenever we want him, I think we can have him on. But he's a good man, and I like to talk about the fact all the time. His district, the district that he represented in the House of Delegates, would have been the district that was representing George Washington. That's where George Washington grew up, was in his district in Ferry Farm. And I can't think of somebody who is a more appropriate person to send as a representative to Richmond on behalf of people like a George Washington than Bill Howell. He is a truly fine man, and I don't know that we'll see the likes of him in leadership in the House ever again.
Well, you certainly don't see the likes of him now. I mean, the former drug dealer who's the speaker. It just blows my mind. Somebody got after me the other day. Why do you constantly bring up the drug dealer thing for Don Scott, who's the current speaker? His claim to fame is that he's the first black speaker. And I'm like, how embarrassing. I mean, I'm so sorry. How embarrassing that the first black speaker of the House of Delegates in Virginia is an ex-drug dealer who spent how many years in federal prison? I don't know. Does that make sense to you? Is that something you're proud of? I don't think that that's something to be proud of. Now, not that I was willing for a little while there to give the guy a break. You remember he came on WRVA when I was the host there, and I asked him those kind of uncomfortable questions. They're not nice questions. I concede that, but they have to be answered, And he was a little bit belligerent about it. But I had all these people, you don't understand, John. He's really reformed. He's not the guy he was. Okay, I believe that people change. And maybe I was being too harsh. But I have to tell you, what I've seen from his language, from his demeanor, from his behavior, these types of decisions where you do have to make a judgment, like Bill Howell said he had to make a judgment, he always goes hyper-partisan. He repeated the lies about me during the campaign very publicly. Mm-hmm. I will not forgive that. I will not forget that. The people who did that, and I've got a list of them, who kept repeating the garbage about me, including
We
the
both have that
Nazi
list.
stuff. And oh yeah, I got that list. So you know what? Screw you. I have no intention of suddenly acting like, oh, you're such a nice guy when you deliberately chose to repeat lies about me. And you know what? I'm the guy with the microphone now. So you're going to own your past if you're going to make up stuff about me. Sorry. And everybody better be on notice about it. So I don't think there's any nobility there. I think there's a street thug attitude on display from Louise Lucas to the former drug dealer. And I'm going to
we've
hold
both
them
heard-
accountable. Apparently nobody else is willing to do it. Everybody else is so weak they won't hold anybody accountable. I'm going to do it.
No, I think we've both heard stories from around town about how Speaker Scott conducts business, and maybe the most diplomatic thing that I can say about it is that it sounds very un-Bill Howe-like.
It sounds like a street thug to me, and that's not about race. That's about attitude. If he were in the mob, I would say that it sounds very similar to that. So Virginia should be alarmed, and apparently everybody else, including the Republicans, are going to just kind of sit back and act like, oh God, I don't want to say anything that'll upset. But why the hell not? What do you have to lose? They're about to stomp all over you and make you totally irrelevant in the state, and you're too scared to say what needs to be said. And it's true. I mean, it's one thing if you're making up lies about people. Don't do that. Don't make up lies about people. But, if you're telling the truth, then tell it correctly and tell it boldly, especially when they're coming after you, trying to destroy you. What good is it going to do in another year if the Republicans are eviscerated and just some sort of anemic little collection of weak, pathetic people in the back corner of the legislature? I mean, what? Do you feel good about yourself at that point? I think you should go for broke now and tell the truth about what's happening. And that's what I'm going to do. So,
well, what's the old line, John? If my opponents will stop telling lies about me, I'll stop telling the truth about them.
Truth about them. You got it. You got it. We should get that. Now, you know what? Maybe I'll get that and put that on the wall behind me and remind everybody that that's what I intend to do. And I hope if you watch the show on a regular basis, you will reach the conclusion that there's no topic that I'm not willing to talk about, but if I can't personally verify something, I think I did it earlier. I said, this is what I'm hearing. I can't verify it. You should hear all the garbage for 20 some years that people have called and told me about different people in Virginia, some of whom I really despise. But Dan, I would tell you in the morning what I'd heard before we went on the radio, but I would not repeat it on the radio because it is wrong to spread rumors, unverified rumors about people. It's wrong to lie about people. I'm not going to do that. But I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and let somebody get away with not owning the truth. No, that we're not going to do. At least not if I have anything to say about it.
You're here.
I was glad that you showed the quote from Abigail Spanberger, the tweet from Abigail Spanberger.
Yeah, let me pull it back up.
You want to put it back up?
Let's
just
pull
in
it
the
back up
context
here.
of this thing starting tomorrow, let's remind everyone of the hypocrisy of our governor. Abigail Spanberger, back when she was a congressperson, and we passed this constitutional amendment to take the partisanship out of redistricting. This is good news for Virginia and the country. Gerrymandering is detrimental to our democracy, and it weakens the individual voices that form our electorates. Opposing gerrymandering should be a bipartisan priority. So what changed, Governor Spanberger? Just that you don't like that certain people in other states that you don't live in have decided that they're going to be cutthroat? So now Virginia has to do the same thing. She's not from Virginia, so maybe she's not familiar with this. But in Virginia, we do things differently. And I can't control the 49 other states in the United States. There's nothing I can do about Texas or California or Massachusetts or Pennsylvania or Rhode Island. Or nothing I can do about those states, except speak about it, I guess. But in Virginia, we hold ourselves, or we used to, until people like you came in who apparently don't value or appreciate Virginia traditions, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I think this is a real problem. And she's a hypocrite. So sorry, once again, with all due respect to the governor, she's a hypocrite. And the one I got to give credit, if you were not here with us at the beginning, Nick Minnock, the reporter from WJLA, at least he's asking the little Ayatollah, Ghazala Hashmi, the lieutenant governor, what she thinks about this, but she doesn't have to answer any questions. In keeping with the trend for the last year, she just gets to be lieutenant governor and take pictures with people and preside, but she doesn't feel any obligation to answer any questions about anything, not about Sharia law. She doesn't have to answer any questions about her past. She doesn't have to answer any questions about legislation that she doesn't want to talk about, and she doesn't have to answer questions about the ICE retainers and the poor dead 41-year-old mother up in Northern Virginia and the policies of her party related. Oh no, she doesn't have to answer any of those questions, and she'll send her security forces to shove the reporter out of the way. I got a problem.
That was a bad look. Like you said in the first segment, it was a bad look.
Right?
Even if I were on her side trying to give her good PR advice, I'd say, you know what, stop and at least just tell the guy, hey, this is a horrible tragedy, and our thoughts are with
that's what you should do
with her family.
But see, this is the thing, Dan. She doesn't have to do it. No one requires her to do it. She ran for office. Nobody really demanded that she answer any questions. It was all autobiographical. Oh, I was born in India, and I'm going to be making history here. Meanwhile, her opponent, me, is out answering every ugly, nasty question, every rumor about me, every nasty story about me. I stepped right up and stood in front of every reporter anywhere across the state. If you showed up, there's not one single time when I was out campaigning where I said, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't think I did that one time. It was always, yeah, what do you want to talk about? I'm happy to talk about.
Well, may I play the video of that again? I want everybody to watch her face while look at this. Look at this while she's walking.
To ask Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi about the case. I'm Nick Minnock with 7 News. Just want to get your reaction to the murder of a woman in Fairfax County at the hands of allegedly an illegal immigrant.
He's not even anywhere near her.
Lieutenant Governor,
look at that face.
To this murder in Fairfax County.
She can't be bothered. She's
can't be bothered.
I mean,
basically rolled her eyes at the end there.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to the family of Stephanie Mentor, Lieutenant Governor?
Why not just say horrible tragedy? Her family's in our thoughts.
She doesn't think.
Just say that. Just say it.
She doesn't think that.
it's because that's not gonna harm you at all to say that. I know.
She doesn't think that. She's not on our side. I don't know when everybody's going to figure it out. This woman is not on our side, and we're fools for allowing her to be in leadership. That's why. I know it's kind of provocative. I'm sorry if it hurts people's feelings, but she's a little Ayatollah. She's not on our side. And okay, wake up to it whenever you want to wake up to it. But there's a reason that woman went out and marched with Hamas. And it isn't because she's pro-Virginia. And it isn't because she's pro-America. I didn't do it. She did it. No one forced her to go march with the Palestinian Hamas crowd. No one told her she had to do that. She chose to do that. Okay, you made that decision, lady.
And other than saying that her thoughts are with the families of lost troops from Operation Epic Fury, has she said anything?
Check. In all fairness, let's just double check. Hold on.
Anything? Has she said glad to see the Ayatollah?
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's just check here real quick.
Glad to see the Ayatollah dethroned.
Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi. Let's see. I'm glad you brought that up because I've been trying to do that every morning. So today, 18 hours ago, wishing a joyful and colorful Holi to all who are celebrating, the Indian celebration, and she's Indian. So that's what she posted about 18 hours ago. And then she had the Virginia Rural Center for a discussion on economic opportunities. So she loves taking pictures with people. No, 3 days ago, I'm heartbroken to learn that 3 of our service members have lost their lives. I'm just telling you, I've been around this stuff for a long time. This is a scoundrel's attitude. I'm sorry that the military people lost their lives. That's not a pro-America statement. That's not a denunciation of the Ayatollah in Iran or the Islamic radicals who have been trying to kill Americans. What she's left out is more important than what she said, to be honest. And I don't know, you guys wake up to it when you want to. But I'm going to, and I know that people don't like it. I know it makes people mad. I know they're like, oh gosh, that's very unseemly. Oh, hell yeah, it's unseemly. It's probably a little less unseemly than refusing to have a candid, open debate discussion with your political opponent before people have to cast their votes. Maybe it's kind of like that. I don't know. But you know what? Since Ghazala Hashmi and her people decided that they would not do the honorable thing and have a debate, I'm sorry. I'm going to continue to point these things out. And if my understanding of honorable discussion is no longer relevant during the campaign, then your understanding of the rules are going to change really quick when you get elected.
And maybe
And
if she won't answer reporters.
Disappears.
If she won't answer reporters or give public statements, maybe the voters, maybe the constituents here in Virginia should give her office a ring.
This is the thing. They are the voters only know about this if you make an issue of it. And I think a lot of Republicans, and I don't want to keep beating up on Republicans, but I gotta wake you up. If you're not raising hell about this stuff, if you're not pointing it out to the voters now, then don't be surprised when they're unaware of it when they have to make a choice. You have to be bold, and unfortunately it's not old Virginia where there is a gentleman's agreement that we discuss certain things and we don't discuss other things, like your private life is your private life, and apparently none of that is relevant anymore. Okay. You don't have to burn me twice for me to figure out what's going on. So get ready, because I am going to hold you accountable for your bad behavior. I'm going to hold you accountable for your lack of transparency. I'm going to hold you accountable, and I'm going to do it in public. And if you don't like it, that's on you, not on me. I mean, Ghazala Hashmi could stop me from being critical of her if she would have a press conference and take these tough questions, assuming anybody's willing to answer those questions. But she won't do that. And she thinks she doesn't have to. And Ghazala and Abigail Spanberger and the rest of them think they don't have to engage. And until we raise hell about it and demand that they engage, we're letting them get away with it. I'm not willing to do that. So, yeah, you want to put the phone number up? Call her. Ask her these questions. Yep. Let her staffer respond. This is the Lieutenant Governor's office?
Yep, sure
is.
Okay. 804-593-2897.
2897. Call and just ask these questions. Why didn't you talk to Nick Minnock? Why are you not working with ICE to get a murderer out of the country? What do you think of the killing of the Ayatollah? Are you supportive of the Iranian regime? What about the people who want to be free in Iran? She doesn't seem to think that she has any. She gets to run as the first Muslim woman elected statewide in America. Oh, yay, congratulations. But then you don't have to answer any questions that are even tangentially related to that. That's beneath you. You roll your eyes and sneer when someone dares to ask you a question about any of these things. That's not how it works, lady. It's not how it works. You may be surprised that someone's actually going to hold you accountable, but that's the name of the game going forward. 804-593-2897. That'll tick them off, but they deserve that. So, sorry.
It's a government number.
Let's take a look. And to be clear, that's not her private cell.
No, it's on the LG website.
Great.
So this is a government number. You're paying for it, folks. So use it.
Yeah, totally appropriate. Tough stuff. Let's do our segment, The Best of the Internet. What have you got for us today, Producer Dan?
Well, let's see. This was an interesting. Maybe this will cheer us up. We had a very interesting person. I don't know how else to describe this individual. That? Just wishing us well today. Wants to remind us that we're all great, super. So here we go. This is that.
Hey, Bestie, type main character in the comments. Because you are the main character of your story. I love you, Bestie. Remember, the best part of your day is you. Love you, Bestie.
Wow.
There you
You know,
go.
I don't think a lot of parents understand that this is, I don't know that person. They could be a very nice person,
Yeah.
and we don't know what we're looking at. Maybe that was a costume, or maybe I'm missing something. Maybe that was a joke, and I'm just not in on the joke. But this is what your kids are seeing nonstop. Total craziness presented in a way that at some point, if you hang around with crazy people all the time, and what you're watching on social media is the equivalent of hanging around. People don't even go to the bars anymore the way they used to.
That's true. That's
People
true.
in their 20s who used to go to bars. I mean, it's probably not the best place. No offense, it's not the best place to meet your future husband or wife, although people do. But people used to go out all the time.
Right.
And my friends who own restaurants and bars say it's just not the same as it was 20 years ago. The revenue's not the same. So this is how people are passing time, and how they're engaging with each other is sharing that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a delightful person, but that's weird.
He's almost
Is that wrong?
plagiarizing my sign off for when I was guest hosting for you on WRVA, but I should have told everybody, love you, bestie. But yeah, that's that was.
I don't get it. What are you saying?
Oh, just when my closing for you when I was filling in for you on WRVA, I'd tell everybody this is the first, the last, the only, in this case, March 5th, 2026, you're ever going to get. So get out there, make it count, be the hero of your life story.
Is that what this person just said?
Well, I just said you're the main character in your story.
Main character.
Love you, bestie. Yeah, so it was very, very similar. It reminded me of what I would say when I was closing the show out.
Little PR word of advice, Dan. Don't try to draw a connection between yourself and that. I don't know. I wouldn't. You referencing Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. Okay, that may be a stretch, but at least it's
as my love you bestie would say. Yes.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
Well, John, you're a globe hopping guy, a world traveler, if you will. I don't know what
countries.
I don't know if you're thinking about this for 117, but somebody would like for you to go to another country, and here is the advertisement that they're offering for you. Okay.
Oh, okay. North Korea.
To a friend you wanna take to North Korea.
Follow
I don't
us
think
to
you
learn
want to
more
take a
about
friend.
North Korea travel with Taedong Tours.
So there you
Going
go,
to
John.
North Korea?
Why not consider a trip to sunny, beautiful North Korea? They're giving those away on The Price is Right these days.
I mean,
but,
was that supposed to be? First of all, was that supposed to be appealing? And then they need to follow that up with poor Otto Warmbier. Remember the UVA
From
student
UVA.
who went to North Korea. I feel terrible for him. I mean, I don't know him. I don't know anything about him as a person. Probably not very prudent to go to North Korea, but it's the kind of thing that I would consider if I was over there, years ago. Oh yeah, look, nobody's been to this country. I'll go to this country. And then they murdered him. They killed him. I mean, he came home alive technically, but then died. I mean, God, it was awful, right? That was in 2017. I think a lot of people forget. He went to UVA. Wow.
died in custody. Yeah, for what? Taking a poster off the wall in a hotel, right?
Supposedly,
something like that.
I mean, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But do you beat the hell out of somebody for taking a poster off the wall and some? I mean, nobody's going to North Korea, legitimately. It's a horrible place to be. And it doesn't mean that every North Korean is a horrible person. I feel bad. But you know what? The Democrats would probably be mad if we freed the people of North Korea to make their own decision. They would probably be livid about that too.
Well, I was just about to say how much you want to bet that before those kids went from UVA over to North Korea, that the professors were telling them how wonderful a place it was.
Oh, yeah.
Wait till you get there. It's a paradise for collectivism.
Yeah, everybody's
the
equal.
the warmth, as Mandami might say. It's such
everybody's
a
equal.
Feel the warmth.
You're
of
all
collectivism.
starving. You're all starving. You all
as
live
we
in
choke and kill you.
A blank hole, apartment, and you're starving. Ugh. Wow. All right. Well, that was surprising. That is not on my list. There are a couple of places that are. New Zealand is on my list.
Cross that off.
Western Africa, which most people won't go to, that's on my list. But no one wants to go to Western Africa. You want to know why, Dan?
Oh, tell me.
About 10 years ago, I checked out. It was right before I started at WRVA. I checked out a cruise that would hit a lot of the countries in Western Africa. And I've been to a lot of the countries in Eastern Africa, but not Western Africa. So I was looking at the cruise. I couldn't really afford it at the time. The next year, the pirates had gotten so bad that they suspended the cruises because the cruise ships were being attacked by the pirates. Yeah. I mean, this is not 1820. This is, 2017, 2018. The pirates are so bad off the coast of Africa that a lot of the cruise ships won't go unless you're on a Russian cruise ship where I am told, again, I haven't personally verified this, but I am told you can buy a ticket on a Russian cruise ship. They will take you to that western side of Africa and you can kill the pirates. You sit in a turret with a gun, a machine gun, and you just murder the pirates. I'm not really interested in doing that.
Jeez.
Oh, well, I mean, clearly, there are people who are willing to do it. They pay a lot of money to go kill the pirates. And it's hard to have sympathy for these people. I'm not really interested in participating in that. But
it's like a real life Hostel, that movie. Where
except with people
paying money to go. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
But,
wow.
All right.
Yeah.
And then what else?
Well, that's interesting. Well, the last thing I don't know.
Best of the internet.
You know who Patrick Mahomes is, right, John? The quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. And a few years back, all the rage was the kids getting the Patrick Mahomes haircut. Well, I think this guy next, maybe he went into the barber and said, give me the Donald Trump haircut. I don't know if this was necessarily what he meant, but this is what he got.
My flag that's shining sun. I'm focused. Eyes on me, boys, hocus pocus. I feel like I'm 021, back in 021. I'm back and swing this one. Cause I grab him and take his gun. Close my eyes and spray this one. Zero tolerance one.
Oh my gosh.
Zero tolerance. No internet, digital blackout. Risking it all. Then bringing a whap out. We got the numbers, even in shout out. Shit gets hard, but we don't do tap out. Persian Empire just getting started. Bring the old map out. Big up my sisters, big up my brothers. If I was there, I swear I would crash out.
Oh my Lord. Where is this?
I don't even know. But
is that in Iran? Where is it?
Maybe. I look like the pro. Yeah.
That is. I mean, I would never do that. I think that's kind of crazy. You'll certainly get a lot of attention with it. I don't know that I would want to walk around. But maybe it's in Iran. Maybe because it looked like it had oddly enough,
Israel.
Iran,
I saw
America,
Israel in
Israel
there,
equals peace, huh? So it could be in Israel, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because I'm told that Trump is very popular in Israel, moved the embassy and everything. But one thing that I found when I lived in the Middle East is that the barbershops, they're serious about their barbershops. The best shave I have ever gotten was in the Middle East. And I was kind of nervous about it with a straight razor, but it was smooth as it could be. And they put the hot towel on and, they don't rush. And I found a guy when I was living in Kuwait who just gave the best haircuts, perfect haircuts. And, my beard, I've never really learned how to take care of it and make it perfect. I have a couple of friends with have beards. And, well, my friends, if you look at them up close, every hair is perfect.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, no stray hairs. And I don't know whether it's my face or what, but it's a little different, certainly than theirs. When I was in Kuwait, this guy, he would fix it so that it was perfect. Every hair was perfect. Some of the little things in the Middle East are interesting. They shine their shoes in the Middle East. Not everybody, but if you're a business person, you don't want to show up with dirt on your shoes because it's, it's sand and there's sandstorms and there's dirt everywhere. And in some places, it's, the roads are not paved the same way they are in the United States. So there is great attention in certain circles to how you dress and how you present yourself. I saw the same thing in Africa. People who didn't have a lot of money, but boy, they took a great deal of pride in having pressed jackets, the men at least, and the shoes were always shined because that showed you took care of yourself. And I think of all the people who are just really, really rich and loaded in America who don't give a damn how they present themselves. I mean, it looks like they just rolled out of bed. They don't care. I was actually impressed in other parts of the world how people presented themselves with great care. Their nails are perfectly done. They go and get their nails. I'm never really worried about that. But, that there's a little subtle cultural differences that are interesting to observe. That haircut, though, kind of crosses the line with me.
I do need to trim my nails. As an ultimate player, even though I play with gloves these days, the last thing you want is a frisbee disc catching the top of your fingernail.
I'm certain of that.
It is painful. I'll just say that. Not fun. So yeah.
Anything else on the best of the internet?
I think that's it for today. But those were several good clips there that we had.
The best of the internet.
We'll try to come up with more
producer
tomorrow.
Dan here on the Reid Revolution. All right. Well, we will plan on seeing you tomorrow. Do you have anybody booked for tomorrow? Who do we have?
Yes. We have our good friend Governor Jim Gilmore will be joining us.
Oh, wow, great! This will be his first visit.
Second. He was with us early on, but he'll be back. I think primarily to talk about gerrymandering. He came on our first month, probably the second or third week, but he was on before. Yep. He was on.
Oh, okay.
It was a very memorable appearance.
No, I thought he hadn't been on, but okay.
No, I think he's been on once before
in January early. Okay.
Yeah, and then our friend
we had
Elizabeth...
everybody. We had George Allen.
Yes,
you're telling me. I apologize if. Oh, you're right. We did have Governor Gilmore on. You're right. I remember.
And okay. Governor Allen, I'm hoping will be back with us next week. He's been convalescing. He had some surgery a couple weeks ago, and I think he's
So we've had Gilmore, Allen, Wilder. Yeah. We haven't had Bob McDonnell yet, have we?
No, we should get him. I'll reach out to Governor McDonnell. Yeah. Especially now that his mentor Bill Howell has been on the show. Yeah. So he and Bill are very close.
All right, well, that will be something to look forward to. And that's going to wrap it up for us today. We hope that you will go to all of our social media channels. Please give us a like and a follow on Facebook and on X and YouTube and I will look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning on the Reid Revolution. Have a great Thursday.
I love you, bestie. Remember, the best part of your day is you. Love you, bestie.